We have reached the end of our journey talking about Freaks and Geeks and kind of just our high school experience. This is part 3 of our series. If you haven't listened to the first 2, go back and do that. It doesn't have to be before you listen to this episode, but at some point there's some great stuff in there. And if you're interested in the show itself, you'll get some nice little nuggets that might make you want to listen to it. But I'm your co-host, Justin Tyler.
And I'm Kandace Tyler.
Welcome to the Couple Podcast. For those of you that are just listening to this episode and maybe haven't listened to the other 2 parts, this is part 3 in a 3-part series where we're kind of taking the television series Freaks and Geeks, which came out in the year 2000, and kind of just breaking down the episodes and themes and kind of comparing it to our high school experience, because it's a point of time that Kandace and I don't really know a lot about each other. So that's what we're doing here. Like I said, go back and listen to the first 2. They're great. There's a lot of embarrassing stories about Kandace and I in our emo phases, and you'll probably hear too much information. But that being said, let's jump way too much.
Regret.
Let's just get right into it. So episode 13 is where we left off. This episode is titled Chokin' and Token. And in this episode, so Lindsay and Nick, they've already broken up at this point, but they're still kind of hanging out, being friends or whatever. And I think that she's trying to they get into an argument about how much weed he smokes, because since they've broken up, he's pretty much just doing nothing but smoking weed. And this leads to,
and she calls him out on I feel like she's calling him out on being a loser. Because
he has all this potential. She's finding out all these things. He used to be this star basketball player and really good at all of these other things that he's given up on.
But then he in turn turns around and is like, you know what? You're just no fun.
Yeah.
You suck. You're no fun. You don't let anyone else have fun. So I think she lets that get to her.
And in a way, it kind of peer pressures her into trying marijuana for the first time. So she's been hanging out with this group for, the freaks for quite a while at this point. This is her first time actually trying marijuana. So when she initially tries it down in Nick's basement with him, she doesn't really inhale properly and doesn't actually get high. I can relate to that. I think my first time trying, I don't think that I did it right at all.
No. Lindsay is me with this situation, in all situations, because I don't enjoy it either.
Yeah. And she kind of lashes out at Nick saying this is stupid. I don't know why you're so obsessed with this. And they get into a fight. He storms off. She ends up stealing some weed from him and taking it home with her, where she's gonna try it in her own space. So that's kind of what she does. She gets high for the first time by herself in her room, and it's funny because I think she's supposed to be somewhere else, and her dad comes home and she's kind of surprised and caught off guard by her dad coming home, and he reminds her that she is supposed to be babysitting some neighborhood kids, one of their neighbors this evening. And shit, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've been in some situations where maybe whether smoking or drinking or whatever, where I probably should have been in a different state of mind for something. And I don't know, what's your experience with that?
I really only have one. I was in charge of getting a Mother's Day cake for my mom. And for whatever reason, I don't remember the circumstances behind it, because I never really was a big smoker. I never enjoyed it. And when I did do it, it was a peer pressure thing where I would just kind of pretend to inhale type of a thing. For whatever reason, this time I didn't pretend, and I just did smoke with whoever I was with. And I was supposed to be picking up the cake, and it hit me. It didn't hit me until I got to Kroger. And then I was in Kroger getting the cake. And I think I ended up being in Kroger for almost 2 hours, because I took an hour to find the cake. I just got very spacey, very spaced out, and also very distracted. Very distracted. And then my biggest memory is just standing in the self-checkout line with this cake for 30 minutes. And I remember just panicking, knowing whoever is watching me right now, they just know. They know something's wrong with me right now. And so I was surrounded by this paranoia, and the paranoia made me think that they were going to call the police on me. So I was just panicking. I didn't know what to do. And I remember in that situation when I was done with the self-checkout, someone had to come help me scan the cake. And then after I bought the cake, I think I ended up having to call my sister and see if she would come pick me up because I didn't know what to even do, which it was probably a good call. But again, it's because I didn't do that very often. I'm very sensitive to like any substance really. And I was pretty like, a lot younger too. So just very inexperienced mixed with very sensitive to everything.
And there's also always a little bit of, I guess I would say Russian roulette, depending on how you smoke and what you're smoking. You can have a situation where you're like, oh, I'm good for another 15 minutes. Like it's not going to hit me until a little bit later sometimes. And you're like, I can make it to the store. I can get this thing that I need.
And just go
People
home.
just make sure that you have what you need before you, like whether it be drinking, smoking, whatever, make sure you have what you need. You're in a safe place and you're not out there on the roads.
Just don't be going places.
Don't be going places. I'm not really a paranoid smoker. I will say my very first time ever smoking though, after, we kind of talked about that a little bit in one of the previous episodes, but afterwards I was like, okay, well, this is my first time being like really, like not so, I guess not first time smoking, but my first time actually getting high. I wanted to experience the full thing. And like everyone always says like, oh, food's so much greater. You got to have food, man. And like, I don't know if people really talk like that, but my friends did.
You got to have food, man.
So we had a Penn Station down the road from us. And we drove, one of my friend's girlfriend who had not smoked with us drove us down to Penn Station. And I just remember like waiting in that line to get up to the counter to order my food. And like, I was so paranoid and I was like, shit, like, cause it just kicked in when we got there.
And it probably felt like it took forever going through the line.
And it probably was not that long.
It's probably like 2 minutes.
But like, I felt like I was like, and I get anxiety in like food lines anyway, because I can never decide what I want to eat. So I'm just jumping back and forth between menu items. And I ended up like I asked for this like Frankenstein of a sandwich that was just like pieced together. And if anything was a tell that I was high, it was the sandwich that I ordered. I don't remember what it was, but I'm sure that they were like, shit, this kid's high as fuck. So, but I can't really, I don't know. I can't really think of like any like specific kind of scenarios. I know that there have been times where maybe like, I don't know, like in school, because like, again, I didn't smoke in high school. This was like a college thing for me. There might have been times where like either maybe drinking the night before and you kind of wake up still drunk in the morning and you have a test or something. Like I've had those scenarios. Yeah. Those are the fucking worst. Like
those are like, the worst.
I'll have just a couple of drinks. I'll be fine by the morning. And then it gets out of hand. At some point you forget that you have a fucking test at like 8 o'clock in the morning. Also, who the fuck has classes at 8 o'clock in the morning? Like, why did I do this to myself?
I know.
It's always that one elective that you have to have that's only offered at 8 in the morning. Thanks, geography. I'll learn about tornadoes and shit. Yeah. So I guess I think that's kind of like my examples of like, oh shit, I'm not in the right state of mind for this, and you kind of fuck up and shoot yourself in the foot a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that too, but I love how on the flip side, there's groups of people that are so bold. Like the second floor of my work has a probation and a municipal court. And it was actually yesterday, and this happens quite a bit, but yesterday was really bad. Overwhelming smell of weed, just overwhelming, because there was court that day, so people are coming in and out of the building. It was so strong that any coworker that I would see would just walk through the hall and just like stop and look around and just be like, what the hell? To where like one of them was like, I have the munchies now. Like now that I smelled that, like it was that bad.
Just got a contact
and
eye.
Yeah, it was so strong. And I was thinking, how fucking bold are people to be going like visiting probation or just going up to their court date and getting high in the building and then going in.
I was thinking to myself, I mean, it is legal in Ohio now.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
This is a probation. Like,
it's a probation and it's a court. And so either way, it's not a good look. Mm-mm. And also it was so strong to where you know that they're smoking inside.
Yeah.
So you're like, how fucking bold are some people? But like, you can't even get like a sandwich.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's wild. There's
Yeah.
two different types of people.
There
for
really
sure.
are. I'm not. I don't like to do things when I smoke. I like to just sit and chuckle.
And chuckle.
And
You mean
I'm
you're
one of
not
those,
going to court?
No, I'm
after
definitely not
you
going to court.
smoke?
I'm on my game. If I ever have to go to court, I'm on my game. Not that I've ever been to court, but
You're like, every time I go.
I've been on a jury, damn it. And I'm listening. I'm the foreman of the jury. I'm
and
like,
you didn't smoke before you went in?
No, I did not smoke before I went in. That would have been awful. So other things going on in this episode, though. This is actually, and a lot of people might actually have seen this scene from Freaks and Geeks via TikTok or Instagram, because like I know that this clip goes around a lot. I see on Reels.
Which one?
It's the Bill. Is that
Bill?
Bill. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's a character.
Yeah.
Bill.
So we've had weeks between recordings of these parts, and it's been a little bit. So I needed a refresher.
Bill the nerd, the geek.
Bill, yes,
right.
Bill the geek. Bill has a peanut allergy, and his bully does not believe that it's a real thing. So he sneaks. Bill takes his eye off of his sandwich at lunch for just a second one day, and the bully decides, like, I'm going to test this out and see what actually happens, and sneaks some peanuts onto his sandwich, which of course ends badly, very, very badly for Bill. So like the clip where like this happens, and like Bill's like they're asking like, what do we do now? And he's like, call 911. Like that's like really, he knows like what's coming, and he can talk at this point. He knows that he just ate a peanut though, and even though like he knows that it's about to be bad.
Ate many peanuts. They just like loaded his sandwich.
Almost killed the guy.
Yeah.
Candace has a nut allergy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't believe is real.
Including your parents up to a certain extent.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it can be really scary, especially when like it doesn't hit everyone the same. I know for me when I was younger, like my teen years, it was a lot worse. Once I got to the point of just avoiding it, obviously I had no issues, but there have been like over the past several years, just like little incidents where I may have had something cross into my food. But I've noticed it's not as bad as it used to be when I was younger, luckily.
If it were as bad as it used to be, I feel like there might have been a few times that I might have accidentally almost killed you.
I think the last time I had a really bad incident, I was like in my late teens, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I just remember there was, and this was maybe a year or two ago, there's a chili oil that I use in my cooking a lot. And we use it all the time, but they didn't have that particular brand at the store, and I got a different brand, not thinking anything of it, because like the chili oil that I usually get doesn't have like peanuts or anything like nut related in it.
Yeah.
And I cooked with it, and like we ate it the night before, and you were completely fine. But you ate it like as a leftover. Like I was at work the next day, and you ate some leftovers of it for your lunch the next day. And I guess there just must have been like a piece of peanut or something that was like that came out with this chili oil in the particular part that you ate, and you swallowed that peanut. And I just remember like you being like,
I remember I was eating the leftovers and it was really delicious. And then I started like clearing my throat, like, like over and over. And I was like getting tight. Then I started getting panicky and thinking, wait, this is how I feel a lot when I have like an allergic reaction. And then, of course, when you realize it's happening, then it speeds up and gets worse because all of your adrenaline. And I started getting like hives, and my throat was very itchy. It was tight. It was closing. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I just ate this for dinner last night. And like, what could be in it? So I text him and like, hey, what did you use? I'm having some issues right now. And you were just like, oh, only the chili oil and whatever. So I took the jar out, and sure, like in the bottom of the jar, there's just like whole peanuts in the bottom.
And I was like, what the fuck? Like, so please like check if you change up your brand or what you're buying, please check always. That's the story of the time I almost killed Candace.
It's really scary.
Of course, because like you don't usually have like bad, like we probably should have an EpiPen on hand just in case, because you never know. But because you don't have as bad of reactions anymore, we didn't have an EpiPen on hand. But I think that you took some like, I think you maybe like make yourself throw up.
Yeah.
Take some Benadryl.
Benadryl usually works these days, but it can be really scary for other people though.
Yeah.
So
So just check your food. Don't kill your wife.
Don't prank people with food.
Definitely
when they say,
don't intentionally. If somebody says
yeah.
they have a peanut allergy, hey, fuck what? It's a real thing. Don't fucking like try
Mhm.
to test it. You're
Mhm.
not tricking them. Like, who gotcha?
It's not funny. Like, I don't know why people think that certain allergies are like fake or like a liberal created
Yeah.
idea.
And this is really like this
Back
is
in my day,
this
there
is
were no
definitely one of
allergies.
the this is definitely one of the more like serious moments in the show though. And like I said,
Yeah.
like that scene where he eats the peanuts, like that pops up for me all. It's actually one of the things that led me to wanting to watch this again, because I was seeing it so much on Instagram. But this also like kind of like, I mean, his bully, like this does lead to kind of like a relationship building moment for him and his bully, where they kind of come to like at least a little bit more of an understanding of like why they are the way they are to each other. And I have to ask you,
Yeah.
like I mean, obviously there's people that you don't get along with throughout your life, but was there anybody like maybe in your high school years that like for the most part you did not get along with at all, but like suddenly you just kind of found yourself like in a situation where like, okay, they're not so bad?
I never had those moments like in high school where there was someone awful or anything like that. I mean, there was awful people. I just meant I never had like reconciled with anybody is what I mean. Up until it was actually my late teens. It was like a work person, late teens, early 20s. She was really just like made my life hell, similar to this bully. Like, and I mean, she didn't put peanuts in my food, but really made my life hell and just did horrible things to me. And for years, like that just stuck with me. And I remember years later, I had a very similar moment like Bill has with his bully, where she just like reached out to me and apologized for everything that she did and was like, hey, I was really shitty to you and I'm so sorry. And I don't know why I was so shitty to you. I just was. And it was like the worst. And I'm sorry, like I regret it. And so I can kind of relate with Bill, like, you can't hate that person after that because you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, they made your life hell, but they're human.
People
and
can grow, people can change.
People change.
You never know, like especially in high school, you never know what people are going through in their home life and why they might do the things that they do. Especially if somebody gets to like their adult age where their mind is done developing and they, you know, like they're aware enough of like how shitty they were to like reach out to you and apologize. Let them apologize.
That shows a lot of character, honestly.
It does.
Like being able to reach out and be like, hey, I was so shitty and I'm sorry. It validates all your feelings and makes you realize that you weren't crazy.
Mhm.
Like, because before you feel crazy, or maybe other people would be like, calm down. It's not that big of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when the person who did it recognizes like how shitty it was, it kind of gives you like a nice bond after that. I don't know. Now we're fine with each other. So
We've bonded through trauma.
yeah.
And it really is the best kind of bonding.
Yeah.
Trauma bond. I'm sure that I had enemies and people that either made fun of me
Did
or
you have
I
any
picked
bullies?
on. I was bullied more, I think, in my younger years. By the time I was in high school, like I'm 6 foot and I'm a little bit of a bigger guy. By the time I was in high school, like I kind of hit my growth spurt a little early on, so I'm pretty much my full size all through high school. And like other than like maybe the crowds I'm hanging out with, like people would still like, I don't know, every once in a while, like people might make jokes because they're teenagers and that's what they do. But like I didn't really have any bullies in high school. I might have been mean to people from time to time, not necessarily because I was bullying them, just because like maybe I didn't like the things that they liked and I'm like making fun of it because I'm like cool, like pre-hipster Justin, like in my
So you're
emo
bullying.
phase, or like I'm
So you're bullying
I'm
them.
a music gatekeeper at this stage. I do remember like there were a couple of kids in high school that like me and my friend group, like we just made fun of all the time because like they acted like they were so hardcore. But like they listened to like Fall Out Boy. And like that was their thing, and like I would make fun of it so much, and I was like almost like anti Fall Out Boy at that point in my life. But like, god damn it, Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy is a fucking national treasure.
Now you feel like a jerk
and I'm
now,
just like,
I bet.
yeah, I do feel like a jerk for like, you know, like I'm who am I to be a fucking music gatekeeper?
Yeah.
My
and that was
musical
our
taste
girl's
is not
first
like
concert too.
Oh, yeah,
So it's like
I've
a special.
I've taken Margot to Fall Out Boy twice.
Yeah. She loves Fall Out Boy now. So
But like, yeah, who am I to be a music gatekeeper? Like, I think that's a phase that a lot of people go through in high school and college when they think that the music they listen to is just so much better than everybody else's.
Yeah,
and
we all go
it might
through
be,
that.
but you don't need to broadcast that.
And also,
or put other people down.
just have different vibes. Not everyone is vibing on the same like level.
It was more so that like these like just kind of rich preppy kids like suddenly decided midway through high school like, oh, we're gonna be hardcore, and they started trying to dress like all of the kids who've like been punk rock and stuff for so long, and like there's like, yeah, Fall Out Boy and Paramore, and like, I don't get me wrong, I fucking love some Paramore, but
just let them have it.
Yeah, I'll let them have it. They paid their dues. I remember like they were buying their tickets for Warped Tour just like everybody else. So all right. So transitioning into the next episode, this was called Dead Dogs and Gym Teachers. And in this episode, Kim and Lindsay accidentally hit Millie's dog. And then they I mean, obviously, like Lindsay's known Millie for years and years. Like I think that she even like kind of comments at some point in this episode, like I think that she might have been there when this dog came home with them. So like she's very aware of this dog, and like she wants to tell the truth here because Millie is like an old friend of hers. Kim begs her not to because she's afraid that like she's gonna get in trouble. And I think that like to a certain extent, Lindsay is afraid because like she's been kind of reconnecting her friendship with Millie and building it. She's afraid that she's going to like push her away again.
Yeah.
So they decide to lie. Yeah, I can honestly say I've never hit somebody else's pet. I don't know about you.
I've definitely never hit someone's pet, but I've hit some adorable families of ducks, but
man,
that was awful. But
so ducks, is that like really the only thing you've
I've hit you know those beautiful green mallard ducks, like the really pretty ones. I hit a mama and all her babies one time because I just couldn't safely stop. There was people right behind me. If it was around a curve, anyways, murdered the whole family. And I'm just like, but if I would have stopped, I would have gotten hit. So, and I've also hit like a really big turtle, which was very upsetting.
Yeah, dude.
That's very upsetting.
So where I grew up, in order to get anywhere, like you're pretty much traveling on like some back roads at some point, and our back roads were all like kind of like just a big grid, like mile by mile grids, like, and so you get like a nice long stretch of just straight road,
tons of country road, like cornfields,
especially so at nighttime. Turtles everywhere. I've hit a few turtles. I've hit a few raccoons. I've hit a possum. I have not hit a duck. I don't know how that you managed to like hit it. Like I'm imagining like wouldn't it suck? Like this might be a good children's story. I don't know, but like, you know, the ugly duckling who's like trailing behind in the back. Its life is spared because
10 little ducks went walking one day.
Well, wouldn't that suck? Like you're the ugly duckling, and it's like kind of like falling behind a little bit, not quite up with like all of your siblings and mom, and like they just get murdered in front of you.
That's the villain backstory.
All right, I'm trademarking this right now. But I've never hit somebody's pet.
I've
or
never
anything
hit
like
a pet.
That.
That's so upsetting.
Not in a way where like it was like serious. Like I have hit a dog before, but I wasn't driving very fast, and the dog actually like this was not like it was in front of the car and I hit it. Like this was like this dog like ran into the side of my car while I was driving, but I was like pulling out of a driveway. So it's not like it was like hurt really bad or anything. It kind of just yelped off and like ran away.
That's really sad. Yeah. So what did you do? You did nothing?
Oh, I mean, I went back, like it was my friend's house. Like I did like go and be like, hey, like your dog just like ran into the side of my car as I was trying to pull out. And so, I mean, it was fine. I'm pretty sure it lived a few more years. So I will say, so I've never been on that end of it, but I've had my fair share of pets dying.
Yeah.
I'll just say
You've had so many pets.
I've had so many pets. Like my mom, like God damn it. It's like, why did you let me have so many fucking pets? Like, you are allowed to say no. I've had iguanas, like other lizards, like rodents.
Knowing your mom, though, she's
ducks.
not going to say no
murdered.
to you.
No.
Like your
No.
mom would never say no to a pet. So,
but I've had my share of like different types of rodents and stuff too. Like I've had like hamsters and guinea pigs, and I will say this: never trust my sister with your rodent pets, because she has killed many of them.
She was little.
She was little. One of them, she was almost an adult. My guinea pigs, I still blame her. But like there was, I had a hamster when I was little, and she decided she wanted to take it to school with her. So she put it in her pocket, took it to school with her, and it was dead by the end of the day.
That's so sad. Do you think it died from like suffocation, or do you think she like sat on it?
I think it was on like a front pocket on like kind of like a dress or something. So probably a combination of suffocation and just, I don't know.
And crazy.
They're tiny. So like doesn't take much to get like brain damage.
Oh, that's so unfortunate.
But as far as like really impactful deaths that like I feel like I was kind of rebellious because as a result of I had toward like my high school years, I had slowed down on the pets. I didn't have as many. I had my cat Volt, and then I had my dog Baby, who I had actually, of all the pets that I've had in my life, I had Baby since I was like 4 years old. This dog lived to be 19. So not in high school, but in college, like this is late college for me, my dog died. Fucking old as shit.
Yeah.
I was very upset by this.
Well,
and
that's like
I had
your whole life.
Yeah.
That's your like.
And to be fair, like I wasn't like super close with the like when I was little I was, but like it's not like I like really like I don't know, like I didn't really like interact with the dog very much in like my teen years and like later, but it's still very upsetting.
I mean, at that point in your life, that's a legit family member, because you probably don't have a lot of memories before like a ton of real ones.
Yeah.
So I mean, when that dog or pet has always been there, that is kind of traumatizing. This
led to me failing the only class that I failed in college.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was. So it was kind of an independent study type situation where it wasn't like I was like taking tests and doing assignments all the time. It was like a test that I had to do at the very end of this semester. And my dog died, and I was very upset about this, and I just wanted to go home. And I was having some issues with this professor, not getting along with them, and like it was going south. And I had said, like I'm going home. Like I asked, like, can I like please have an extension on this, or like can we take this at another time? He said no. Yeah. And you're
probably like, fuck it.
I said fuck it. Yeah. And I went home. And I missed that test and took an F. The only class I ever failed, and probably took a pretty significant hit on my GPA. But that was my rebellion over like I lost my pet, so I'm gonna be like rebellious and say fuck you, teacher. If
you would have went to college like 4 years later, they would have given you like a safe space.
This guy was like 80. If he were there now, he'd probably still be pulling the same shit. And he's like, I'm tenured. Fuck you. But other things going on in this episode, there's a lot. We have a little bit more Nick cringe. Nick teaches himself guitar and writes Lindsay a love song.
Yeah,
he's gonna win her heart back. Holy fuck! I can relate to this. I've played guitar since I was about 8 years old, maybe a little bit younger, and I've gone like I did my whole like I was in metal bands, like I was writing music that was actually pretty decent, like, but I also had like my share of like cringy acoustic like fucking like love songs that I would write. Like I'd write for a girl or something. Like I had my share of these, and holy fuck, like looking back on them,
do you remember any of these songs?
I don't remember the lyrics, but I could probably like play some of them still like on the guitar.
I don't know why that's entertaining to me, but I would love to hear one.
I have if I need to get a disc reader for my computer, like an external one, because like none of my computers have a disc reader on them anymore. I do have a couple of like CD drives that might have, I know definitely has some like videos that I made in high school from my original YouTube channel saved on these discs, but there might be some songs too.
I have to hear/see all of this.
People, if you know where I can,
Please.
I
have
can
a
get
disc reader on my computer.
on your laptop,
Yeah.
we'll see if they can read them. And I'll have to see like what all's on there.
Yeah.
So we'll try that out. But yeah, fuck. I wish that I would.
This will be a whole other episode in itself. Just
like
my reaction.
How cringe.
We have to see if your cringe like lives up to Nick's cringe in this episode.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've never written you a song. Do you want me to write you a song? You might not want
anymore.
to.
I feel like you've like been there, done that, so it wouldn't be special.
I haven't done it in well over a decade now, so it's been many years.
It's not special anymore.
It might be special. I come out of retirement to write you a love song, like my last swan song.
Too late. You never tried before, so
man.
I had all your children.
You're saying that
whatever.
I can't show you my love and like do romantic
gestures
gestures
I'm just
for
saying
you. I can't.
You blew your wad on all the like romantic stuff, I guess, before we were married. So.
Nah, I got some tricks up my sleeve still.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll take a listen to those if we can, and we'll hear the cringe. But I wish that I would have. So in this episode, Ken saves Nick. He's about to perform this song for Lindsay, and he just grabs the guitar and fucking smashes it. I wish that I would have had a friend like that in high school that just smashed my fucking guitar so that I could not fucking
to save your life.
Yeah, I don't think my songs were not as bad as Nick's were. Like Nick is just learning guitar.
I don't know. I
knew how to play guitar by this point, and I'm pretty good. Like my lyrics are poetic.
I don't know. I just can feel the cringe emanating off of your body.
I'm not saying that it's not cringe, but it wasn't terrible.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll update the listeners on that.
So another thing going on in this episode, though, like you have Bill. Turns out his favorite coach, what is it? Coach Fredericks? Is that his name?
I think so. Yeah,
Coach Fredericks. Yes, yeah. So his favorite teacher is Coach Fredericks. His gym teacher is dating his mom. Mm-hmm. What a fucking slap in the face! That like it really like causes some like tension between them. And I can honestly say like my neither of my parents ever dated one of my teachers, but I definitely have the experience of like my dad just like dating a lot of different women throughout my high school years, and me being the like, fuck you, you're not my mom.
Oh,
yeah. We don't need to go down that road, but like, so it's always awkward, like when your dad like just brings somebody like that you don't know or like someone new over to the house, and like they expect you to like, oh, be on your best behavior and like make them feel at home. And I'm like, they don't fucking live here.
Yeah,
rebellious teen. But this whole situation with his coach, like the coach is trying really hard to connect with Bill and kind of mend this, and because he really cares about his mom, and I think he really does want to like be a part of their life, and he takes them to like this fucking go-karting and like tries to like do all these fun things to connect with Bill, and it's
really
just it's trying too hard, and Bill's like, I hate this, I hate you,
you're not my dad.
Yeah, exactly. It's not until like he kind of lets his like he stops trying to like earn his like trust and everything, or like he stops trying to like be cool to him and just kind of like they kind of like open up, drop the shit, and kind of have a moment. And like it is
well, because at first he's trying to do all these like father son kid things, and then he's forgetting that like Bill's in high school, and like he's his teacher, and he's realizing, okay, I know him in a different way. We have to have a real conversation. I can't just take him go-karting and him be like, yay daddy.
You're my dad now.
Yeah.
But no, like they end up like they get there. I don't know. Who knows if it ever lasts, because the fucking show was canceled after one season, but they get there.
They get there. We know in our hearts. Did you have any of those moments with like any of your stepmoms? Like,
so
they did okay.
I had mentioned to you, I think in one of the previous parts to this, I can't remember if it was part 1 or part 2, but we were talking about kind of just like trust, and like also like how like when you're in a situation where like maybe like a parent does something, like do you tell on them? Or I would definitely like there was 1 or 2 girlfriends that my dad had that I did like, and I always struggled because like my dad's a cheating asshole. Like I always struggle with like, I don't want this person to be hurt. Do I tell them? It's a dilemma. Like if I tell them, they're probably going to break up and not be in my life anymore.
Yeah.
And I lose that person. But if I don't tell them, that they're gonna be miserable.
Yeah.
So it's
like either way they're gonna be upset. Probably.
So there were a few like kind of stepmom figures that I had that like I got along with and enjoyed, and I appreciate like I think that they liked me and my sister a lot, so they stuck around a little bit longer despite my dad.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, not anything quite like this where like suddenly like my gym teacher's boinking my parent. And then you're just trying to just eat your fucking breakfast on a Saturday morning and your gym teacher just comes out of your mom's room.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
That would be uncomfortable.
Moving on to episode number 15. This is called Noshing and Moshing. Is noshing a term for kissing? Like what is noshing?
Yeah, I feel like that's like a makeout term, isn't it?
Is it?
Isn't it more of like a British makeout term? Or am I thinking of snogging?
Snogging is the British.
Okay.
What is noshing?
I'm Googling it.
I'm Googling it too. Eat food? Enthusiastically or
it's
greedily?
a Yiddish word that means to snack or to nibble.
Oh, because they're having a party and they're Jewish. That makes sense.
Oh,
because they're like just kind of like having like a little party with friends and like
a little food
hors d'oeuvres.
party.
Yeah. So that makes sense. So they're noshing and moshing. So in this episode, Neil's family, they're throwing this annual get together that they do where they have like invite all the people from the town and they show off their wealth and blah blah blah. I know Lindsay and Sam's family, like they've avoided for several years going to this party, even though they're always invited and Neil and Sam are best friends. They never go. They decide to go this year.
Yeah.
So they're at this party, and there's a few things that happen here. So Neil, we mentioned in the last part 2 of this in one of the previous episodes. Neil's dad is having an affair and cheating on his mom.
Yeah.
And
so he thinks kind of.
I mean, it's pretty he knows. He saw his dad's car in somebody else's garage. After finding the car, like the garage door opener in the car, and like he's been told by somebody else that they think that his dad's having an affair. And, so he's having a hard time keeping it in at this point. It's like it's bubbling, like it's coming to a boil.
He's pissed.
And his dad and mom are just acting like everything's cool. Like we're throwing this party. Like Neil, do your ventriloquism.
And he's like, my life is a lie.
That's another thing. He's randomly doing ventriloquism. As of
which is so funny because earlier in the season, his friends always like one of their roasts to him is that he dresses like a ventriloquist doll. Do you remember that? Like in the first few episodes?
I don't remember that, but
because he has this smile that's like severe.
Yeah, and like
he
just
wears
the way he dresses.
He wears these vests and like dress pants.
Yeah,
and they're like they like roast him for like looking like a ventriloquist doll, and then it's just funny because later
he's suddenly
he just
like taking ventriloquism lessons,
right?
And like this is how he's getting. This is like he wants to be. I think he wants to be a comedian. Like he's kind of like he is a funny guy, but he like this is his path that he's taken is like I'm gonna be a ventriloquist. But his dad makes him like do his ventriloquist act at a point where like he's bubbling at the surface, like he's about to fucking blow up. And like he uses his ventriloquism act to like he says some pretty nasty shit to his dad and kind of
tale as old as time with your ventriloquist dummy. Just getting all of the shit out there.
You're airing your dirty laundry through the like I didn't say and it. You're like
it wasn't
did.
me.
It wasn't me.
It was Chucky. It wasn't me.
It was good old Vincent. So yeah, he kind of he says some mean shit to his dad and storms off. He's upset. This is a bad episode for Neil. He pretty much all but like this. He confirms that his dad is in fact having an affair. Big things happening in this episode. His big brother is visiting from college. This is the first time like they haven't really mentioned him a whole lot. And this is our first time seeing him. Neil obviously he looks up to his big brother a lot. His big brother was also kind of like a nerd in high school and picked on, but now he's in college and like the tides have turned. And I think that it's cool for him to see that like his big brother is actually pretty cool and like girls like him all of a sudden. And like that's what he aspires to be, is a lot like his big brother. So his big brother's kind of like his hero. And he feels betrayed because like he tells his brother about the affair, and it turns out like this has been going on for a long time. His brother already knows. And like he feels a little let down that his brother like never said anything to him,
Yeah.
and that his brother's just seemingly okay with it. And I'm sure he's dealing with his own shit, like he's going through it too in his own way. But I mean, for the age gap that's there, like why would he have burdened his little brother with this?
Yeah.
Like he got out, he went to college, he got away from it. It's not really, I think the way he sees it's not really his business anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and who is he to like mess up his little brother's life, I guess.
And I get that. I can sympathize with that. Like having like, like being in a situation like where like I have like my mom and dad are both awful people for the most part, and like having two younger siblings who like, like when I got out to college, like they were still there. Like I don't want to like make things. I never wanted to like make things worse with them, like with like shit that my mom or dad might have been getting into. So it's kind of just like, all right, well, I'm in my own world now. This doesn't really affect me as much. Yeah. Unless it's directly impacting my brother or sister, just whatever. Keep it to myself.
Yeah.
So I can get that. But this is kind of like, I don't know, this is kind of like a breaking point for Neil. So Lindsay, who has been at this party with her parents, she's also like, she's struggling right now because she doesn't know what she wants to be like, do when she grows up. She's having this identity crisis throughout this entire season. Doesn't really know, like, like, what am I a geek or am I a freak? What am I? And like, she kind of has a pretty good conversation with Neil's older brother, and they kind of click. And I think that this gives her a lot of clarification on just kind of what she's like. It's okay to like not feel like you know all the things, like just fucking like have your life.
Yeah,
you can be both.
This when was you get to college, this was a turning point for her for sure,
big time. And I think that she develops this little like, I mean, obviously it's not going to go anywhere because like he's a few years older than her and he's off in college and leaving after this party or whatever, but it kind of develops like this crush on him. And like they going back to like previous episodes, like Lindsay is like, Neil has a huge crush on her. Like it's like his best friend's crush. Like big sister. Like
he loves Lindsay.
He loves her. And then it ends up catching his brother, his big brother, his hero, and Lindsay making out. It just happens.
Yeah.
And that further puts kind of a rift between him and his brother. And man, like for going into like this episode, like his big brother being his hero, and then all of a sudden, like it's like, fuck you. I think it's kind of the mentality here. I feel for the guy. I really do. He finally, like, he's had enough. He confronts his mom about the situation, about like his dad cheating, and she knows. And she, like her thing is like, marriage is hard. We're working at it. And that's kind of just where she leaves it. And she said, like, it's not for you to worry about. It's for me and your dad to worry about. And like, she does a really good job of kind of like, she's taking on all of this hurt herself. Like, you don't need to be worried about this. This is for me and your dad to figure out. Which
is why they've never said anything to him. Like, I think they're basically just trying to hold the family together for him.
And I mean, up until now, like he was a little kid, and he's just like, he's finally getting to this age where he's noticing these things. He's questioning these things. He's developing in a more mature way, and it kind of like brings about like a lot more, like, I don't know, he's worried about it.
Yeah.
He's finally like, he's noticing and worrying, and his mom tells him like, you don't need to worry about this. We're gonna figure it out. So yeah, that's the noshing portion of this episode. We'll quickly go over the moshing though.
Yeah.
Kim and Daniel.
Yeah.
Sorry, like, man, it's the first time we talked about Daniel on this episode, actually. Kim and Daniel, they break up again. And
they break up in every episode.
It seems like they're one of those couples.
Yeah.
But Daniel, he's like, fuck it. I'm gonna he's also in his like rebellious stage here. And there's this girl that works at like the local convenience store who, like, he can relate to her because she also, like, she got held back a little bit and then eventually dropped out of high school, and like now she's all punk rock and stuff, and like he was like, that's like me, like I got held back a few years. I'm like a 23-year-old still in high school. And I'm probably gonna drop out too because there's no way I can graduate, man.
And he has to like essentially take care of his family a lot.
Yeah, he does. And so he feels drawn to her and attracted. So he kind of like asks her out or whatever. She invites him to this punk rock show later in the episode, and like he decides like fuck it, I'm gonna lean it. Like they listen to a lot of good music, like Daniel and like his group of friends, but like I think he leans more heavily into like the punk rock side of things. Like you see him putting like Elmer's glue through his hair to spike it up, and he goes to this punk rock show, and like there's this whole thing where like, hey, like let's pierce you, man. Let's like
he's kind of like a pretty boy originally, and now he's like,
but now like
trying to be hard.
Well, because like society's kind of giving up on him, and like that's a theme. It's constant throughout this series. Is like he's gotten by for so long on like his charm and everything, and it's not getting him anywhere anymore. And he's struggling really hard with just balancing home life and school, and it sucks. It's a tough spot to be put in. And he's not, naturally, like he hasn't studied, he hasn't done well in school. So that carries over, and it's hard to kind of just turn that around all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So he's just like, I think at this point he's had enough, and he's kind of leaning into like, fuck it, my life is fucked anyway. Let's get fucked up. But I don't know, he kind of dips his toes into this whole situation, and ends up deciding like it's not for him. But can you remember any like super drastic changes that you might have made?
Not as drastic as that, but for me it was always like what music I was listening to. Like I pretty much like just about every genre of music, so it's not too fake of me to like start listening to other types of music, because I just love music in general. But that was always a big thing. I connect with people over music a lot. And I feel like if there ever was a guy that I liked maybe in high school or something, I didn't do it after high school, because I think at a certain point I realized like, fuck it, I'm just going to like what I like.
Yeah.
I don't really care. Like, I don't really care. I'll appreciate what you like, but I don't have to change. But in high school, I would be like, maybe know what they love. And I would just like go study it, like listen to all of it. And which, honestly, that's not a bad thing to do, like just getting to know other music and stuff and just educating yourself. But I definitely would do that, like lean a little harder on like, oh, I like this, or I would be like interested in things that people that I liked, like their interests. But I think after a while that gets tiring, and you're like, you know what? I like what I like. And if you don't like that, that's fine. Yeah. Because people can like different things. But I think like definitely in high school, you feel like you have to like the same things.
Yeah. That your crush or whatever likes. And people, they oftentimes go through like pretty drastic measures to kind of conform to that.
Yeah. And with your looks too, like I can see that. I never really tried to change my looks at all, because I feel like it's kind of hard for me to change my looks for some reason. I just have very aggressive hair, and it doesn't really change.
I went through a few different like look changes in high school, but it was never a result of a girl or anything. It was just kind of like
just what you wanted to do,
trying different things. Yeah, grow my hair out, shave my head.
Yeah,
like, that whole thing.
Yeah, I've never went blonde. I've never like, I don't know. I feel like people's hair like really makes them, and like I can't. My hair is like a bush. I feel like I can't change my look because of my hair.
Your bush hair.
My bush hair.
Bush hair.
My top bush, that is.
All right. All right, moving on though. Episode 16, smooching and mooching. So we were confused about like what the noshing was in the last one. This literally smooching and mooching is a lot of kiss references to this episode. So in this episode, Nick gets into a fight with his dad because his military dad, who wants him to just like straighten up and be on the straight and narrow and give up music, sells his drum set as a way, like, because he's distracted by it and he thinks that it's holding him back. It's the marijuana, I think, not the drums, but it's neither here nor there. So they get into a big fight, and he spends some time, like he crashes at Daniel's house, he goes here, there. Eventually he finds his way at the Weir's house, so Lindsay and Sam's house, staying with them for a couple of nights. And Lindsay gets jealous because like he's actually like, like they talked while they were dating, they talked so much about like how like much of a loser Nick is. But in this situation, like her dad's bonding with him pretty
Yeah,
hard.
they're like
The
having
mom's getting along with him.
fun.
Yeah, they're having fun, and like
They're like
I think they're
dancing
seeing like his
with him.
potential. Like he
Yeah.
really is a good kid. He's just kind of like he's had a kind of a rough situation with his dad and made some bad decisions. And I think that the kind of the way that her dad puts it, like, because she confronts her dad in this episode, like, why are you having so much fun with him, but like you don't act this way toward me? And he's like, well, because you're my daughter. I have to like, you know, like he's.
Well, also he has, I think the ultimate thing is like she's his daughter, but he knows, like he has higher expectations of her.
Exactly.
And he knows what she's capable of and how smart she is. And he knows what type of parents they are for her. And Nick doesn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're being the support.
Yeah. And I think that this is kind of a turning point for Nick too, because like he sees that, like, you know, like there are people that care about him. Even if him and Lindsay aren't together anymore, like they, you know, like they have this kind of like closeness, and you know, there's life outside of, like, his dad's, like, the next couple of years getting out of high school and everything, like it might be rough, but like his dad is not the, you know, like it's not going to ruin his life. Like he'll bounce back from it. He'll find his way. He'll get to do his own thing. I think it's kind of like what's going on in this. So yeah, it gets a little weird there. The other thing that's going on in this episode, Sam's crush, Cindy, who he has been friend zoned by this entire season so far, breaks up with her basketball playing boyfriend, Todd. One thing leads to another. Sam and Cindy are dating. Woo! Mm-hmm. Like, congrats, like a big dude. Deal. It's a huge deal. It's his first girlfriend.
He's been waiting for this the whole season.
And she's a little more experienced in relationships than him. So they get invited to this makeout party, and he's nervous as hell because he's never kissed anyone before. He doesn't have any experience with relationships. It's this whole thing.
And I feel like he even opens up to his sister, doesn't he?
Yeah.
About this.
Yeah.
I feel like this was the part that I loved, because people are always looking to the girl like, oh, he would be so lucky to have you or whatever. But I loved this moment because Lindsay lets him know, like, Sam, you are the prize here. Just to let you know.
Yeah.
Like, and he doesn't believe that because he's infatuated with Cindy.
Yeah, he's infatuated with this girl.
Yeah.
And he's picked on so much at this stage in his life. So he doesn't see that.
He has like zero confidence, and like she's a little bit older. And even though she's his sister, like she can see from the outside,
the
like, hey,
of him.
You are the actual prize here. She should be lucky to be with you.
Yeah.
And I loved that so much because like his mom always tells him that.
Yeah, but now he's getting this from his sister too. He always just kind of
like cringy, and he's like, whatever, mom. But yeah, like his sister tells him that, and I feel like, I don't know if he believes it yet, but
no, not
it's
yet,
just like a fun thing to see, like when people tell like their sons that, because I'm like, do boys hear that enough? I feel like it's always people telling like the girls like making it seem like the girls are the prize or something.
To be fair, most of the time, boys growing up, we're little shitheads. We're not the prize. But like I could see
they
us
are, though.
Like affirming like Milo, our son.
That's
like,
that,
dude, you're the prize here.
It's my mom
gem.
heart I think that's what it is. I picture Milo like when he's older, and like maybe he's not very confident and having trouble with girls or something, like me, like, because you see someone's real personality, and I can see myself being like, hey, there's no reason to be nervous. Like she should feel just as lucky to be with you as you do with her. So I don't know. I liked that moment.
Boys need a little bit of emotional support too.
They do. And
boys accept the emotional support. You don't have to be so fucking macho and like manly and just fucking be a delicate flower.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe don't be a flower, but you know, like you can let your guard down. You can show your emotions. You can like just be Be you.
Be a normal person.
Be a person. Funny thing about this episode, like I said, like they're going to a makeout party though, and this is like one of my favorite moments for Bill. Bill really is, I think, my favorite character in this entire fucking show. So they're playing Spin the Bottle, and
classic.
Neil keeps spinning the bottle, and it keeps landing on Bill. And he's getting so fucking pissed off. Yeah. Finally, like Bill spins the bottle though, and it lands on like the most popular girl in the school, like head cheerleader. And they go into like, oh no, like if they land on it like so many times, they go to like 7 minutes in heaven or something. Like I don't remember how that rule works, but like they go and do that whole thing where they're in the closet for 7 minutes, and like whatever happens stays in there. And they end up like they fight for the first few minutes, and like, oh, you're disgusting, don't even look at me. And then they end up bonding, and like she realizes like, oh, Bill's actually kind of a funny, cool guy.
Doesn't he say something like, well, maybe I don't want to be in here with you either?
Something and I think that was like that clicked for her. Yeah. And she was like, oh shit.
She was like,
I've never been talked to like that before.
Yeah. She's like, I'm used to being the princess, but he was like, you know what? I don't want to be in here with you either. You're mean.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a great moment though for Bill. He gets himself some. He gets they make out. Have you ever played Spin the Bottle?
So I feel like other than a very innocent, like 6th grade birthday party situation where it was literally, it wasn't like 7 minutes in heaven type of a thing, but it was a like literal
you peck
like
the person.
Yeah, you just like peck the person. It maybe lasted for like a few minutes before someone's mom came down into the basement. I think that's the only like.
Yeah, it was like I've never had like a serious. It's kind of similar like to that. I've never had like a serious game of Spin the Bottle.
Never anything like that.
You want to play some Spin the Bottle with me? Just me and you. Let's do it.
I'll probably land on the dog over and over.
Oh, I'll give my doggy kisses. Moving on though, the next episode is titled "The Little Things." This is episode 17. And this is the theme of this episode is not a little thing at all. This is the Tuba Girl episode. Yeah. Or should I say Tuba Girl?
Oh gosh.
So Tuba Girl and Ken, their relationship is it's been going great, and she's finally comfortable enough with Ken to disclose to him that when she was born, she could have been a male or a female. She had the parts for both. Parents chose female. They did surgery. She's a female now.
Right. And she was like, I'm so glad they chose that because that's what I feel.
And at first, this causes Ken to way overanalyze the situation. Yeah. Like it's not even, so he's not, in his mind, he's not disgusted at all by Tuba Girl and like what she's just told him, like from that perspective. Like
he just doesn't know what to do.
He's worried that he thinks that he might be gay now.
Yeah.
There's this great moment where he goes to the school guidance counselor and kind of opens up about all of this because he thinks the guidance counselor is gay and won't be able to help. And he's like, and the guidance counselor is like, I'm not gay.
And he's like, oh, and then he just leaves.
So he's questioning like whether or not he should, Amy, is that her name? I think. Tuba Girl?
Yeah, Amy the Tuba Girl, yeah.
He's trying to figure out whether or not he should break up with her over this, and also what does this mean for him? Does this mean that he's gay, even though like I don't get that because you didn't know. Right. And also she's a girl now.
He's just confused. He's a young kid. He doesn't understand like what that means for him. Because he's like, oh, well, I think what it is he really likes this person a lot. And he's like, well, if I really like this person, I would have probably liked them even if they were a guy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So he's like, does that make me gay? If it just could have been a guy.
It just means that you genuinely had a connection with this person and don't think it through, like don't think about it too much.
Right.
Just fucking whatever.
It was like just and it was a surgical procedure, and she's even said like, I'm so glad my parents chose what they did because I feel like a girl.
Yeah.
So
it's you get a little like you're like want to shake Ken so much, like just stop. Like, he gets there on his own though. He gets there on his own, and it's actually it's a really cute episode.
But he definitely pisses her off in the process, like big time, because she's like, oh, I feel comfortable telling someone this like very kind of like embarrassing to her secret.
Yeah. I feel like this episode is the catalyst for us getting Seth Rogen as the underdog, like love story kind of fucking rom-com guy that he was in like the later 2000s and 2010s.
Yeah.
Like without this episode, Knocked Up
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Right.
So thank you. This was such a great episode. Like
Because-
this really is like, this is
yeah.
one of my favorite episodes
It's
in the
a
entire
wonderful
series.
episode.
Other things that are going on in this, vice president of the time, remember this is 1980, Vice President George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr.'s dad, he is visiting the school, and Lindsay has been selected to ask the first question in this Q&A that they're doing with him. And this is a huge honor for her, but she sees it like, I don't know, she kind of just sees it as like, oh, well, this is a joke. Like they're going to make me ask some like fluff question. I'm not going to get to like ask anything like real or pressing, blah, blah, blah. So she submits a real question. It gets rejected and they give her like you should ask this. Essentially her concerns are confirmed, and you know they're not willing to answer the question that she had. That's a huge deal, getting to like talk to the vice president of the United States.
What pisses her off, and it also pisses the guidance counselor off big time.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of like a recovering hippie.
Yeah.
And he's very much like recovering hippie guidance counselor. And he spent so much time hyping her up to agree to do this, saying like what an honor it would be and how special it is that she gets to choose what to ask during this monumental
and then they tell her no
time. Yeah. And he's like, you know what? I feel like he's like, just fuck me then. Like what is even my role in this?
And I think
school?
Because of this, like that clicks for her. Like I'm going to ask whatever I want anyway.
Yeah.
And essentially she asks him something along the lines of like, why are you afraid to answer the question that I originally was going to ask you? Like that's essentially what she ends up asking him. And it's like a big, like kind of like defiant, like rebellious moment for her, I think, kind of leading her down like her path of like who she is. Like she's a very intelligent person. I think that she does not go along with the system and expectations of her. And this is really one of those defining moments for her, and kind of picking up on that. This is also like that last episode, Sam and Cindy finally get together. This episode, they break up.
Yeah.
Like he's struggling hard with like, he just doesn't like they were greatest friends because their entire friendship was based around like, oh, I am so in love with this girl and I just want to like be near her and do everything for her and blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's the classic, like you spend so much time wanting something that you don't realize when you get it that it's not actually what you wanted.
Yeah.
And like it turns out Sam is too interesting and like too intelligent in a different way where he's bored.
Yeah.
Like he has nothing in common.
They have nothing in common, and she does not click with like intelligence wise, like does not click with him like conversationally the same like the way that he wants.
Like he's straight up bored. Like he's like, we just kiss all day.
Yeah.
And his friends
and his friends
Neil
are like,
is like, that sounds wonderful.
I would love to have that problem.
Yeah. But Sam is like similar to his sister. Like, I don't know. They're just both like smart. And he's like, I don't know. This wasn't what I thought it would be.
They're not compatible.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very, very mature actually of Sam to realize this, and he breaks up with her.
Yeah.
And she just can't believe that this has happened to her.
Yeah.
But this has been, I think that there's been a huge confidence boost for him. Like the things that you mentioned in the previous episodes where like his mom has told him like, oh, you're the catch.
Yeah.
His sister has told him like, no, she would be lucky to have you. This is one of those moments where he's finally starting to realize this.
Yeah.
And like
he's like, there's more to me than being a nerd. Like
Yeah.
I have things to offer. I just haven't found who appreciates me yet.
What kind of, like big confidence boosters did you experience in high school? Like, can you think of anything that might have like you were, I don't know, like maybe like a big moment for you that was kind of, whether it be asking the vice president a question or breaking up with the girl that you've obsessed with, or
really none. Someone painted a photo of me one time and like wrote me a poem about like how wonderful I am. But other than that, nothing. And I remember thinking like, oh, I thought this whole time we were friends. I didn't realize
you thought of me this way,
that you were in love with me.
Can we go back to
now I will put this in my closet and I'll never look at it again. I think that was the only like, I think it coming from a friend, like all of those like deep compliments, like I was like, oh, like I do believe you strangely. So like that makes me feel good, but I didn't know that was the level.
That's not how you look at them.
Yeah.
So it's like, then like, how does our friendship continue
Yeah. I don't
and it
really
not be
know what to
awkward? I
say about this.
don't know what to
Yeah.
do with my hands.
And it was like very good artwork. Like, thank you. You're very talented, but like, I don't know what to do.
Hey, at least you got a cool photo of yourself, a
Yeah.
cool portrait of yourself.
I think it's still on like a shelf in my closet in my
really?
old room. Yeah. With like a poem on the back of it.
Well, okay, you share that poem and photo with me, and I will try to find, like, go through those discs and see if any of my songs are on there.
Okay, we'll exchange them and
we'll
what's more epic.
I went into college or into high school, like actually having pretty low confidence. Just like I grew up kind of poor white trash, and up until like I moved in with my dad in like late middle school, and like my life started changing, like kind of changing at that point, turning around. But like I went in with pretty low confidence in who I was, and I don't know, I just felt like I had a lot of things, like I tried a lot of different things while not like conforming to any one thing, kind of just remaining myself, but like sampling like all of the experiences that like high school and even into college, like doing the same thing in college, experiencing all of these different things that are available to you, and like finding out that like you're pretty okay at a lot of different things. Like I don't know, like I've got some things that I'm probably better at, but like I think that high school, like I came out of high school a lot more confident in who I was than going in.
Good.
I don't know
so
if
you're kind of like
any
Sam.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm quite like Sam, but I definitely like I came out of high school a little more confident than I did going in.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for like all the different clubs and organizations and things that I got to try. I do hope that our kids try a lot of different things throughout their school years, and don't just like do the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I want them to experience different things and grow. We have one episode left.
It's a wild episode.
Discos and Dragons, D&D.
Can I just say, this last episode makes me so fucking angry that there's no more seasons.
Yeah.
Because it had so much potential and like character growth potential.
So much setup too for later stories.
It's unfortunate. So I don't want to give away. That's the hard part.
We'll navigate
about
this. We're not gonna. Oh, man,
that's hard.
So there is gonna be a segment that I have planned for right after we talk about this episode. I will give heavy spoiler warnings.
I mean, just give it now. Like,
okay, we're talking about the final episode. I'm going to try not to get too detailed about things that happen.
Yeah.
But just in case you do want to watch this show, spoiler warning. Spoilers. Go back and watch the fucking show.
Yeah.
We've given you, we've tried to pad this out just in case you were interested in watching it. We've tried to pad this out by like weeks and weeks and weeks. So you've had time to watch the series by this point. Go back and do it. Or stop listening. I don't fucking know.
Because this is the end of the full series.
This is the series finale and the season finale.
Yeah.
And after we talk about the episode, I have a little segment.
I cried so hard this last time watching it.
The freaks are at a bowling alley hanging out, and they discover that Nick has been dating this girl named Sarah, and they've been hanging out at this disco dance club that's like a part of this bowling alley. Wild times. Like disco sucks. Disco is dying by this point, but it's still
like
holding on enough to...
It's like a skating rink, a bowling alley.
Yeah, it's just like their town entertainment.
Club.
They have a dance floor, and like the people here just having disco competitions, like it's fucking Saturday Night Fever up in here. Oh man, could you? How embarrassed would you be if you like just Nick, like this thing that like your entire friend groups like they make fun of so hard, like so many times throughout this series, do they yell "disco sucks" and make fun of disco music?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing in like the late 70s and early 80s is making fun of disco music.
But he falls for a girl, and he does.
He's like, I'm pretty good at this, actually. And she teaches him how to dance, and he enters this competition.
But I mean, he's been told, like, he's coming off from, like, the relationship with Lindsay, where she's like, you don't do anything other than smoke weed. And I think that resonated with him, where, like, he can't just, like, keep being a loser.
Yeah. So he's trying different things.
Yeah.
This kind of, and this, I resonated with this. Like, this is what I was just talking about. Like, I went into high school not very confident in who I was. I didn't feel like I had a future, and I started trying a lot of different things, and that's led me to where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for people to branch out of their comfort zone and try these things.
Yeah.
Even if it is fucking disco, even if disco fucking sucks. I say that as I love like Daft Punk. I would consider modern disco in a way.
Bee Gees. Can't forget the Bee Gees.
Oh, yeah. Four-legged woman.
Yeah, we love that. I love it.
But yeah, he steps out of his comfort zone, and it's not so much because like disco's easy to dance to. So I mean, that's kind of like he discovers that he's a good dancer though, and he pushes himself like kind of. I think that he has some like performance anxiety, like even as a drummer, like he like doesn't think that he's good enough, and like this is something that he realizes like, oh shit, like I can get through this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little funny bit going on with that whole situation and his like dance competition and his friends making fun of him. Other things going on in this episode, like this whole episode, like everyone's kind of like figuring out who they are and where their place is, and it kind of sets them up for the future, but we don't get that future. Yeah. So Daniel, trying to get out of taking a test, pulls the fire alarm, or is about to pull the fire alarm.
Yeah. He like breaks some glass as he's about to pull it. He gets caught. And as punishment, they're like, well, we're not just going to give you detention because you've done that, been there, done that, doesn't do anything. Instead, you're going to be in the AV club. So the AV club consists of all the geeks. All the geeks that we talk about. And this is like their territory.
This is their thing. Like they're not there as punishment. They're there because they fucking love it.
They're like the kings here. Like
it's not just hooking up equipment, AV equipment in the classrooms. Like they screen movies in their free time. They have access to this equipment. Like this is like a geek's paradise.
And their like instructor just like is always feeding, like letting them know how wonderful they're going to be in the future. Like maybe you're having a hard time now, but you're not going to be having a hard time when your bully is like giving you fries at McDonald's. Like basically just like pumping them up. Like you guys are so smart. You're going to be like getting all the ladies and you're going to like all of this. So to them, they're just like, this is our territory. And then Daniel
is
joins
he's forced in here, and holy shit, is he like, so like I mentioned that part of this is like they have to go around from classroom to classroom hooking up AV equipment like projectors and stuff, like when they're showing a film or like doing whatever. He's really bad at it. He doesn't know what he's doing. And there's a scene where like he goes into a classroom and like another student ends up just like, do you just want me to do this for you? And he's like, yeah. And he sits back and watches
and he's just like film. Embarrassed.
He's
like
very so embarrassed. And he hates that he's like so bad at this. And I think that I think that deep down, like he wants to like learn something. Yeah. He wants to do better. And we've seen signs of this throughout the entire series, but like he kind of like starts to click with the geeks a little bit.
He does, because he can let his guard down. He's very guarded all the time.
And he because has to they're put so accepting.
This like cool guy charm on, like, because that's his only thing. He's good looking and he has this like
this swag.
This like swag. And I think with the geeks, like he can just let loose and like have fun.
So you kind of find yourself in this mutually beneficial scenario where by Daniel hanging out, like being around the geeks, he can let his guard down and kind of just figure out who he is a little bit more without all the pressure of like people making fun of him. But on the other side, the geeks see this as an opportunity. Like, shit, if he thinks that we're cool, does that make us cool? Yeah,
they're like, are we cool or does he suck? Like they're not sure.
Kind of like, are we cool now or is he just a loser now? Like, what has happened here? They extended invite. Like, so the whole thing is like they've been talking about this Dungeons and Dragons campaign that they're going to be doing. They've been talking about it in AV Club. Daniel's been like kind of listening in, but like doesn't know like what they're doing. Like they end up inviting him, and he says fuck it. He says fuck it, and he goes and joins them, and turns out he's actually really good at pretending to be something, like getting to be something that's not him.
Yeah.
And falls in love with it. So I think that was a really cool, like kind of like moment for Daniel to kind of like.
So on one hand, you can look at it as a good ending.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
where does it go?
You want to see where it goes. Yeah, like you hope that maybe he just mellows out a little bit. But it's the same with everybody else. Like you don't get a good conclusion for everyone's lives, including Lindsay.
The other big thing that's happening in this episode, Lindsay is invited to do an academic summit at the University of Michigan over the summer.
And it's like a big deal.
This is a big deal. Like only so many kids in the state get invited to this.
What was it, like the top 3%
of the state,
of the whole state?
Of the whole state gets invited to this. And it's like a 2-week ordeal. And everyone's saying like, oh, this is going to be great for your future. They're pressuring her. And like, she doesn't know that she wants to do it. And
she's like, how did I make this? I don't even study that hard. And,
yeah.
And they're basically just like, well, you're just that smart.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that she has a moment here where like she realizes like, yes, I am smart. And yes, I want a future, but there's a lot about my life that I'm missing.
Yeah.
And me going to this 2-week academic summit is not going to change the outcome of me getting a good job someday or me having a successful life. That's going to happen for me regardless. There's some other areas of my life where like I'm not experienced, and I'm not like her guidance counselor, introduces her to the Grateful Dead as a way of like, hey, like when I'm down in the dumps, like I put this record on, and I think it's their American Beauty album. And she gets us introduced to this, and she falls in love with it. She listens to it over and over and over again.
And she makes some connections.
Yeah, there's some deadheads that go to the school, which are somehow different from the freaks. I don't fucking know what is the difference between the freaks and the deadheads, but I guess the deadheads listen to Grateful Dead, the freaks don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she ends up like, she kind of like bonds, like connects with them and like starts talking, and like they tell her about like, they're following the dead around on tour from like Texas up through like wherever, like they're going to be like following them around in a van over the summer for like so many weeks or whatever. And this leads to like Lindsay ends up fucking telling her family that she's going to this academic summit and really goes off and follows the Grateful Dead for the summer. And
I don't think she's like trying to throw her life away. She needs some freedom.
She needs freedom and life experience that's not just from a book, because like you said, she didn't realize that she was that smart because she doesn't really try that hard. And she's being put on this kind of like pedestal regardless. So like she, in her mind, she's like, well, I already have, like, I don't need this academic summit to really make a difference. Like I'm going to get where I want to go either way. I need to like really experience life and have these freedoms. Like that's what I'm missing. And that's what she decides to chase.
It made me think of one of our daughters last night, actually, or like a couple nights ago. We've been having a hard time getting them to just go outside this summer and just like play by themselves without us. And it's weird because like when we were little, I feel like I used to do that all the time. But for our kids, they almost need us out there to like enjoy being outside. But she came up and asked us the other night randomly, because she's almost 10, and we live like in a nice neighborhood. Like it's a big neighborhood, pretty safe, all of that. And she goes, where am I allowed to ride my bike? That was like the first time she's ever really asked that, because they usually only ride like the cul-de-sac. And I was like, well, I guess if it's in our neighborhood, you can just ride wherever you want. Just be careful. And she was like, I've never felt so free. And so she's been riding her bike every day because she has this like sense of freedom. And then she came to me tonight and was like, I wish I lived back in the 90s like you, so I could just ride my bike everywhere, like to school and to like the park and to all these places. And she was like, because I feel like I would just be so happy. She was like, I'm so happy riding my bike around the neighborhood. So she's like turned a corner. Now she wants to be outside all the time because she has the freedom.
Yeah. And she's riding her bike. She's like, earlier she went on a little scooter date with our neighbor. Yeah. I probably need to keep an eye out for that situation.
For like an hour.
Yeah, they were gone. Like to the point where like his little brother came over and was asking like, hey, where's my brother?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know, off with our daughters somewhere.
Yeah. But I mean, we say freedom. It's very little freedom. We have like a very like enclosed, safe neighborhood. You give them a little and like look at the difference that's made on her. Yeah. And I feel like that's what
Kids
Lindsay's
are not
doing.
meant to be confined and like just like you can't keep them safe all the time. You can't make all the decisions for them. You have to let them fail. You have to let them succeed. You have to let them figure it out for themselves a little bit.
And that's what Lindsay's doing. Like, she's not doing anything wild. She literally just wants some freedom. Like, she's gonna
Mhm.
travel around without the eyes of her parents.
Yeah, and another thing that kind of happens here too is she has a conversation with Kim, and Kim talks about how like she, like, oh, it must be nice that you're going to this academic summit, blah blah
Yeah,
blah. Like, I've never gotten to go anywhere. Like, she's never
anywhere.
left their town really. Um, so she brings Kim along with her on
Yeah.
this trip, and they follow the dead around for the summer. So that's kind of how the series ends, is them kind of going off to this academic summit. She gets off the bus around the corner, and then they get into the van, go follow the Grateful Dead. So it's kind of like going off onto this journey or whatever.
So, question, is Lindsay, was this her senior year?
No, this is
Or
her
was it
junior
her
year.
junior
This
year?
is her junior year. This is all of their
Okay.
junior years,
Wow, I
except for
completely missed that. For some reason, I thought it was their
nope.
senior
Yeah, it's
years.
junior year, so they're coming back next
Okay.
year.
All
Except for
right.
Daniel, I don't know where he lies. Like, he's somewhere in the super duper quadruple senior.
He's like in his
He's
mid-20s at
40,
this
so
point.
like he
I mean,
yeah,
I think he was just held back like once or twice,
yeah, a couple
maybe.
times.
But-
Um,
So he's
so
probably like 18 already when they're all like 16.
before we get into like the conclusion of this whole thing, kind of just building off of this last episode, I do have a few things I kind of want to talk about. Um, how how did you embrace change and kind of like moving forward from high school into the rest of your life? Like, what were some aspects of like yourself in high school that you embraced going forward, and how did that like kind of how did that inform who you were beyond high school?
That time for me is a trauma that I've locked up into my brain
You're not willing to,
somewhere.
yeah.
And it slowly comes out sometimes, but that's why watching this show for me again was really important because I, it was hard to watch it again because it's hard for me to watch shows or movies where like people are of that age because I always look back and think like what I should have done. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And like how easier things would have been if I just would have like just been either more confident or more just I don't know. There's a lot of things that I did wrong out of just being scared and not being confident and not making good decisions. And it was one of the hardest times in my life, like high school to college age. I mean, I ended up having like a kid very, very young. So that's part of that. And I don't regret that part of it now, but there's just a lot to unpack with that where I just made some wild decisions out of like being so reserved, I feel like all through high school and trying to like make everybody happy and trying to not really live for myself, but be who I thought everyone else wanted me to be. And it ended up getting to the point where I just rebelled late and just didn't care anymore. And then ended up getting into trouble.
High school, so self like figuring out who you are and that self-discovery, it really is a journey. And high school is like the first, I think the first real stage where some of it starts to stick. Because if it started sticking in middle school or earlier, I would just be walking around with my Jinko jeans and my frosted spiked hair, listening to fucking new metal on repeat all day.
Yeah.
But high school really is, I think, the first point where like some of the aspects of like the aspects of like yourself that you
Yeah.
discover do start to kind of like stick and finalize, at least in an infant stage. They
Yeah.
evolve over the years, and there's different, like, you go through different phases. Like, you go through that, you go through college, you go through, starting your family, you go through like just all of these different things. And even now, like, I'm approaching 35. I'm still figuring out who I am all the time. I don't think that I'll ever, until the day that I die, until the day I die. I don't know that I'll actually know, like, that's when like the most like definitive version of me, like, I'll be able to define like, this is who I was. This is
Mhm.
who I am, because this is how I'm ending. You can always reinvent yourself. You can always experience new things. It's never too late. And there's always time to change and adapt. And I think that you and I are both people that like we're always kind of changing little things at least, or adapting and or discovering new things about ourselves.
And I can tell that I do because I'll look back at just like old Facebook posts from like 3 years ago, and I'll be like, ew.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm changing and morphing.
And I think that's really important. And like, I mean, if without that, what the fuck is the point in life? I know so many people who have just been the same exact person for years and years and years, never changing, never trying new things, never trying to better themselves, never trying to be anything different than they are. And I'm not saying that I'm trying to be something different than I am because I don't like who I am. That's not what I mean. I mean that I want to evolve who I am. I want to grow.
The world changes too.
And the world changes. And like that's,
you have to.
You do. And it's a constant journey. And high school really was kind of I mean, you can go back earlier to that into like childhood, and like there's aspects of that do kind of linger throughout the rest of your life. But high school is really where I started to figure out who I was. It was kind of the building blocks for that going into the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt like a lot of things that I grew up with were so strict that I felt like I couldn't really let loose, or I would be a disappointment. Mm-hmm. Instead, I didn't take necessary precautions in certain things. So in my mind, for example, like, oh, sex is a sin. You'll go to hell if you're not married. So there's no reason to get on birth control because I'm not going to ever have sex.
And then
until I'm married.
You are.
And then like the hormones overtake, and then you're just like, I'm pregnant now.
Yeah.
And just like things like that. I wish I could tell my like younger, like coming of age self to like have a little more fun. You're probably not going to go to hell. I don't know for sure. I can't confirm nor deny, but
who knows?
Maybe get on some birth control.
Just at least be smart about the fun that you're having.
Just have a little, don't get too crazy, but like just if you want to have fun, whatever.
I want you to experience life, the good and the bad, and figure it out for yourself. I can't tell you who you are. Your mom can't tell you who you are. Nobody else should tell you who you are. You've got to figure that out. And you do that by living.
Yeah. So I wish I would have lived a little more in my high school years, because then I may not have put myself into like certain pickles that I did a couple years later, but
it all worked out.
It worked out. Wouldn't change it.
Some bits.
I mean, maybe but I wouldn't change
the core, and we talked about, at one point we had an episode, I think you and I were talking about like parallel universes, or like if you could time travel. I think that's what it was. Mm-hmm. We were talking about like, if you could go back and change something, would you? Like, I honestly, like I'm the core bits of it. If I could we were talking about reincarnation. That's what it was.
Yeah.
If I could do everything again, the core pieces of my life, I think, would probably stay the same, or I would end up in like kind of the same general direction that
sure.
like. And I think that means that you're being true to yourself, at least in some way. Little changes, sure. Who doesn't regret things or how they've treated people, or so.
And my daughter was meant to be here. Like, I would not change that.
Yeah,
she's a very important person. She does awesome things. She's going to do awesome things. Like, I would not wish to change that.
Yeah.
So there's no point in, I guess, regretting. But if I could go back, I would tell my younger self, like, have a little more fun. You're probably not going to go to hell. Experiment with some things, but be safe, and you'll be okay.
Hey, if she adopts the Catholic way of life, she can just go repent on Sunday and be forgiven.
Exactly. See, I should have been a Catholic. Instead, I was raised by like Southern Baptists who you're always going to go to hell for something.
You're going to hell for everything. My mama said, I'm not going to start quoting Waterboy, but that is the end of Freaks and Geeks. All 18 episodes. What a fucking journey. What a seriously a coming of age, self-discovery story. So fucking phenomenal. Why the fuck did it get canceled?
Why the fuck?
So ridiculous.
And now it's too late. Everyone's
too late.
old.
Yeah.
We can't go back now.
I have the next best thing for you, though. Okay. And we're going to do this really quick to wrap things up. in an interview, I don't know when exactly this happened. I think it might have been around like 2010 or so. Paul Feig, the creator of the show, did disclose, like, based on his plans for the second season and what he wanted to kind of happen, where some of these characters would have went in their lives. We're going to go down the list just really quick, and I want you to guess where you think these characters ended up.
Okay.
So starting off with, you want to start off with Lindsay, main character?
Lindsay.
Is that the kind of...
I feel like just based off the end of the season, like Lindsay would end up being like some like political figure.
Close. She becomes a human rights lawyer.
Okay.
So yeah, like she's very much like kind of standing up for people and fighting for them.
That tracks.
And she apparently had years of following the Grateful Dead, which led to her like, you know, fighting for human and civil rights.
Okay.
So
yeah, I can see that.
Sam. So this is not, I don't have I don't have like an answer on where he got in his life. I have an answer for kind of where he goes in high school. Like,
where he goes in high school?
Like what kind of is like, what does he get into in the following season if it would have happened? Like what kind of like that path? So we can make assumptions about like maybe where he got in life. But
I mean, he's like really smart. I feel like, but he also like, he's really interested in like movies and stuff.
Yeah.
I almost feel like he would end up being like a theater kid or like something like that.
Joins drama club.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Man.
I swear I don't know. Like I haven't seen this list.
Yeah. So that would have been season 2 is Sam joining drama club.
Because his big thing is like he's always quoting movies and like all of that.
All right. We got Neil.
Neil, I feel like. So do you get to know his like after high school, or are you just talking about
this
high
is
school?
kind of for some of these characters you kind of know like what happens after high school. For some, I think the younger, like the geeks, it's more so like what happens for them in high school, like where they kind of go.
Neil's a hard one because like he's just like he's really smart, but he's also very confident. I feel like he's gonna end up having some like just like hot girlfriend or something and just be like doing really well
eventually, and he'll probably marry her, have a couple of kids, and then have a garage door opener for another woman's
just
house.
Like his dad.
He'll probably repeat the cycle.
So
this one was a little bit of a letdown, actually. I think that he's because he's going through some shit with his parents. So his parents do end up getting divorced.
Okay.
And he's going through some shit. He joins swing choir.
Oh.
Okay. I was very caught off guard by that, like Neil joining swing choir, but then I thought about it. I was like,
I mean, look at his clothes. Like that.
I mean, I guess it's a way for him to get with the ladies.
Yeah.
I think ultimately for him, I bet he ends up becoming some kind of performer or comedian or something.
Yeah.
I can see
going
that
down
him.
the comedian path.
What do you think happens with Bill?
I think Bill, shoot, he's a hard one.
I actually think this one's kind of straightforward.
You do?
I think that the basis for what happens with Bill is kind of there.
Okay, do you know, is it just high school or after?
This is just high school.
Okay.
But yeah.
Does he end up like trying out for a sport?
Yes.
Okay.
So Bill's tall.
Yeah. Basketball.
And he's got his new stepdad.
Yeah.
Who's like kind of like he's kind of connecting with different things, and he joins the basketball team.
Okay. I can see that because
he very much starts hanging out with the jocks, which causes tension and a rift between him and Neil and Sam.
Well, he gets like a lot of his things like during the show is he wants to be good at sports. Like, and he hates that he's chosen last.
Or he's not given the chance. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not given a chance. And like, he's like, maybe I want to be part of that. So I can see that for sure.
This one's a little heartbreaking. Daniel.
Do we know after high school?
This is after high school because he's pretty much done with high school at the point where we leave him off.
He like doesn't fully graduate. Like
I don't know that for sure. I would assume probably not. Maybe he gets his GED. I don't know, but I'm assuming he drops out.
I feel like there's one of two things. He ends up like getting into drugs and like something like that, or just I don't know, gets like roped into the like heavy home life that he has already, like just not being able to like really live for himself and just like have a shitty job and all of that.
Ends up in jail is what we have on him. So
I can
probably
see
gets into a lifestyle that's just
and
it sucks because like you really do feel like he's kind of like oh shit, I can turn things around. Like I can fit
Yeah.
in with people. I can do normal. I think it might be too late for him though.
Yeah.
And
That sucks.
so that's a little heartbreaking for him because like you're rooting for him so hard by the end of the season. Nick.
Nick, I feel like
It's like the whole thing with Nick is his dad is pressuring him to join the army, but he wants to be a drummer or
I feel like he's not going to join the army. But I'm kind of torn with him because I feel like it sounds weird, but even he's one of the most normal people in my opinion. So it's kind of hard to like one way or the other guess what he's going to do because he just kind of seems normal.
so he does end up giving in to the pressure that his dad's
Does
putting on
he?
him and he joins the army.
Okay.
I don't think it's I think that this is what it is though. I think he realizes that these are the things that he's capable of and what his life could be, but he's fucked around so much at this point that through like traditional means he's not going to be a drummer.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard for him to like get into college and everything at this point. So he probably sees like the army as a way for like, okay,
like a fresh start.
I can get a fresh start here.
Like
and
a
I think
hard reset.
Yeah. And I think that he like becomes self-aware and like realizes like, oh, like I do have a lot to give and this is how I can do it. We got one more character, Kim.
Okay.
Oh, actually, we had Ken too, but he never commented on Ken.
Oh, he didn't comment.
I think that he has a happy life with Tuba Girl.
Yeah.
He's got some money that he gets from his parents and he probably has the most normal life out of all of them.
Sounds great to me. Like he's probably fine.
Do they have? Is she sterile, or can she have kids?
I really don't know about that.
I feel like
physically.
I feel like she would probably be sterile.
Hermaphrodites, I don't know. I'm really not sure. Science aside, biology aside, I feel like Kim probably turns around. I have a hunch that having Lindsay in her life as kind of like seeing what normal functioning families and people could be changes her around. And I bet she becomes like a fucking awesome mom because she has a terrible mom.
I sure fucking hope that's what happens because she becomes pregnant while on tour following the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
So before even finishing high school, becomes pregnant.
Okay. So I hope she turns it around and becomes an awesome mom.
I hope so too.
Because I think if she wouldn't have like connected with Lindsay, it wouldn't have gone very well. But she sees like deep down like what good families could be. Mm-hmm. So I hope it works out for her.
Yeah.
This fictional character that didn't really get pregnant.
we can just think in our minds like what happens, and that's all the information we have from that interview.
I love that.
Like that's where at least we have a little bit of closure. Kind of in my mind, this helped me, so I wanted to share it with you because I know that like you're pissed that the series never.
I'm so pissed, but I'm so happy for Bill that it plays basketball.
Yeah, even though he kind of has some issues with his friends, I'm sure they get over it eventually. I don't know.
For sure.
Yeah, but this has been our series on Freaks and Geeks. It is done. It's been such a great time, like not only like reflecting on the show and talking about it, but like kind of just learning more about you and your high school years and kind of sharing my cringe. And
it was so fun hearing your cringe.
all of my cringe, and you can literally hear my cringe if I can find any of my.
I can't wait for that. All those like love songs that you made.
We'll see. So there is a show called Undeclared, which is Judd Apatow's follow-up to this series that has a lot of the same cast actually, but it takes place in like modern, contemporary, like early 2000s college. It's a kind of a similar story set in college, but in modern time. You like Seth Rogen, a lot of like returning cast members are a part of it. I want to check this out. And maybe like down the line we can check this out and then do a similar thing and talk a little bit more about college. Even though I got into college a lot, I think in this, just because like I felt like a lot of the things that happened here happened for me a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Who knows? I'm looking forward to watching it though. We've definitely, like I said in the last episode, we've been kind of rewatching some of the Judd Apatow films and stuff, and it's been fun revisiting those, and they're just hilarious. And I really do I love this cast so much.
I do too. It's fun. I love to see them age too, and like the different roles that they do. They're still fun.
Yeah.
They're so fun.
So yeah, that's Freaks and Geeks. I do have kind of just a little thing that I want to just some housekeeping with with kind of the end of summer and fall coming up, we're going to take a little bit of a hiatus on recording regularly. Does that mean that we're going to put new episodes out? No, not necessarily. But we're not going to be doing weekly releases for a little bit just because we have a few other projects that we want to be working on this fall. Yeah. And also just kind of finishing up the summer with our kids. It does become a little hard to keep on a schedule with a weekly release.
School's starting to ramp back up.
Yeah. So, and some other life changes that are currently happening. So we're gonna take a little bit of a break on the weekly releases. We will probably still release episodes here and there, but we should probably late fall, early winter ramp back up with the weekly releases for a little bit. We'll probably do that in spurts where we release like for a little while, we release weekly, and then we take a break during busy times and kind of just when we can. So I just wanted to let you know like what's happening there. If you're not seeing new episodes every Monday, we'll try to inform people when we do put new episodes out. But the best way for you to know is to go to Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you get your podcast and follow or subscribe or whatever that platform, like whatever it offers, just so you're in the know and you get those notifications when new episodes drop. And that's really a great way of supporting us in the podcast. If you're friends with us, you'll find out. If not, check back once in a while or find some way of following or subscribing the podcast. We do have like episodes planned still that we're excited to put out. We're just kind of slowing down on the actual release of them.
Back to school.
But anyway, this has been fantastic. I am your co-host, Justin Tyler.
And I'm Kandace Tyler.
Thank you for listening to the Couple Podcast. Stay classy.
Bye.
Bye.